Hello there, welcome back to another episode of Strife's Talking Points. And in this episode, we're going to go directly into Hurricane Dorian and the Bahamas. Currently, the U.S. is being hit by Dorian as it glances up our coast. Sorry, this is graphic that I used a little earlier. However, there was, in the case of the Bahamas, where it essentially slowed to approximately 1 to 2 miles an hour and then just rolled through these islands. 185 sustained winds. The thing was moving at little to no, we're talking toddler walking is how I've heard it described, 1 to 2 miles an hour as it slowly drug across these islands to the Bahamas, causing massive destruction. And now, of course, it's moving up the East Coast. And I just want to go through some of these stories, some of these things I've seen here. Most of this coverage is coming out of USA Today. Do like some of their stuff. We see here a picture of a brother and his two sisters who are actually out to the islands looking for their other brother. They couldn't reach him by his cell phones, and they flew to the islands and hoped they could find him. Right now, they're desperately searching. These are residents of Nassau, and they've lost their brother in the storm. Hopefully, they find him safe and well. He's just, the utter destruction of this place is almost unimaginable. We see here some images. You hear stories and see things about, wind resistant, weather resistant buildings. Here is a home built what looks to be out of steel and concrete blocks. This is something that would be very much able to sustain a lot of damage, a lot of winds, and you see it here just blown apart, just completely wrecked and destroyed. You see here the metal beam is bent, twisted, everything, concrete wall, just completely destroyed. 185 mile an hour winds is no laughing matter. And of course, you see here phone lines, power lines, all that has been destroyed. Right now, these people are without aid, without water. Slowly but surely, people are getting here. I found this shot here kind of telling. Former Marsh Harbor Fire Chief Norwell Gordon surveys damage caused by Hurricane Dorian September 5th in Marsh Harbor. And you just look behind him here, you can just see all kinds of stuff down. Trees are gone, smashed, and he's just standing there holding the walkie-talkie. People, of course, are moving through. In the pictures, you'll see all kinds of people trying to get out. This is actually during the storm. And here, this is an aerial view of the Coast Guard station. Low-lying areas are completely flooded. You can easily see here, they say that most of the runways are flooded as far as trying to fly in relief to these places. There's almost no way to get there. Here is a marina. You'll notice that in the marina, which is here in the image, there are no boats. All the boats have been blown up onto the land, still in fairly neat rows. If any were still left in the water, tugboats up on land. You can see everything smashed. The buildings are beat up. Some pictures from the wind. Of course, here's a nicer yacht with the front smashed up on ground during the storm. All kinds of flooding, people trying to get out, cars flooded. If you're ever in the place, trying to escape in a car is very dangerous. It is very easy for a car to get swept away, flip over, and then you drowned. Of course, there's a medical relief. Here's one of the images along the coast. This house is just completely smashed. The walls are there, but that is all. Again, boats, just the tremendous damage all across these islands. And remember, this is not just one island that everyone is on. There are multiple islands that make up the Bahamas. Right now, I know the Royal Navy is sending out relief aid to these places. As always, if you can donate to the Red Cross, I believe that's a good way of getting stuff out there. And this is just a neighborhood completely destroyed. I mean, there's so little there now that that resembles how homes. I mean, this is just destroyed. I mean, you can see vehicles still parked in the rubble. That vehicle there has clearly been smashed. All these homes, all these places people lived, gone. You see a relief helicopter here, could be medevac. You see all the homes have their roofs stripped off. Of course, flooding, so no telling what's going to happen. Here's an aerial view kind of the place we just were looking at a few moments ago. You can just see nothing remains of all these homes, all these houses, all these places people lived. I believe as of now the death toll sits at approximately 30. However, that is expected to rise. I mean, it's just mass devastation all across the Bahamas, all across the islands. You know, and got to think some of these, this is one of the areas, you know, look at this. It's ripped all the boards off of their docks, smashed all the houses. Some of these homes are completely washed away, completely gone. Because this originally would have been houses all up and down. You can see them back and forth, back and forth. So where you see no homes here, there were probably 2 homes here. This one's just part of a foundation left, just a basement. This destruction is awe-inspiring. I mean, you know, again, another home built out of concrete blocks, you know, extremely weather resistant. The roof is completely gone. People just going through, hoping to find pieces. Planes that were destroyed, of course, anything on the ground. Here's some people there. Hopefully their home's still intact. They're trying to dry out their clothes. Remember, these people are without electricity, probably without any decent communication. Their water's probably been shut off, you know, gathering just your very essentials you can get out of these places. And again, almost every picture you see of the Bahamas, every home is destroyed. Now this one I've seen already, it's been in here a couple of times. You see this house just completely smashed, ripped the front of this one off. These do look to be more wood homes. Again, tugboats smash, everything's thrown off. This is a humanitarian crisis right now. If you have the ability to donate, to give the Red Cross, support this relief effort, because this is almost unimaginable. And it being an island means that it will be much more traumatic and tragic and harder to work on than it would be if it was a like somewhere in the continental US, because in the US we have roads, we have all this, but any relief aid going to this area must be stuck on a tugboat, some type of cargo ship, shipped there, taken to a dock, unloaded, flown in by planes. I don't know if you've ever been to the Bahamas. You know, they have a couple of nice airports, but you know, with some flooding and some damage, it's very difficult to get this stuff out there. I mean, just the size of that boat just up on the land. Of course, with flooding, they always end up with disease. And sorry, that was just going through the images of this, showing you how rough it is. However, you see here, Category 5 Dorian slammed into the island chain on Sunday, and took days to get past the island chain. Tempers flared as frustration surfaced Friday as Hurricane Dorian survivors tried to evacuate their island by plane. Boats from either nearby Nassau or the U.S. mainland had not yet reached the island, and flights remained the only option for hundreds of sick and elderly residents seeking safer ground. Because of the way the hurricane moved up across Florida, you can't send boats out in the hurricane. You can't, even now. You'll see this thing Tuesday, Wednesday. You still can't launch boats because you see the small hurricane here, but you know, in reality, this thing is huge. It's this big circle around there. It's very difficult to get any relief out because you know you can't put boats out in the hurricane. And then it's not one island. You just don't go to one depot, drop it off, and it gets out to everybody. Multiple islands destroyed all across the region, and you can kind of see here, you know, all these separate islands make up the Bahamas. The hurricane destroyed the island's power grid and severed most communications. Although occasional text messages were getting through in Marsh Harbor, the biggest town. But with Marsh Harbor's airport still out of commission, survivors were begging rides to Treasure Cay, where a steady stream of small planes and helicopters were depositing search teams and emergency supplies, and only flying out vulnerable survivors. If you're there, you're healthy, they are just trying to get food and stuff to you. They're not trying to get you out. They're only getting out the sick, injured, the most desperate. However, if this state continues, desperation will grow. Anytime there's a tragedy, the moment food and water become scarce, everything goes haywire. You've never seen anyone as desperate as someone who's starving and dying of thirst. Clearly, some frustration exists on the ground in terms of mobilizing and getting transport, said Dr. Michael McCurdy of Nervous Medical Solutions, an independent emergency service group that arrived several days ago by private plane. There are still some islands that haven't had any evaluation. The big islands are where they're going to start, and slowly they'll push out to the smaller islands. Right now, with the death toll at 30, I've seen reports and read about different versions where they're saying that no, it's much higher than that. They just haven't gotten to the bodies yet. This is going to be one of the worst disasters we've seen in the Caribbean in a long time. McCurdy, whose group flew in dirt bikes and small utility vehicle, said the sole doctor at the government health clinic had been working nearly constantly since the hurricane, performing at least one amputation. So hurricane hit Sunday. It is now Friday. This story, I believe, came out today. September 6th, just doing that so you can see what day it is. He said the greater problem is people with chronic health conditions who need medicine. Friday morning, Bahamas Airlines serving Treasure Cay were prioritizing the sick and elderly and the very young, canceling reservations for healthy passengers and taking only those approved by airport or military officials. Again, they're just getting out the most in need. If you're more or less healthy or you don't have small children, you're not getting out. As frustrated residents tried to leave, search and rescue teams began arriving in force, including the Seattle-based Impact, a nonprofit SAR, a team working under the direction of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force. SAR teams were bracing for large death counts because one of the hardest hit areas was a shanty town of Haitian immigrants on muddy floats by the harbor. That is going to be horrible whenever these numbers start to rise. After struggling with clearances for several days, the 16-member two-dog team landed at Treasure Cay to uncertain deployment, wondering how they would reach Marsh Harbor or where they would sleep at night. Again, when the whole area has been devastated, it is very difficult for relief aid to get in because they're missing roads, they're missing cars, mass flooding, and these islands are not, it's not one big island. These are multiple separate small islands. If there's any potential for live rescues, that's our number one focus, but if need be, we can pivot to medical or logistics support, said Impact Director. We try and fill whatever need exists. The death toll rising. The death toll at the Bahamas has jumped to 30 and is expected to increase significantly. This is what I mean when you look at these areas that are completely destroyed, all these smaller islands and inlets that make up the Bahamas. My concern is that there's just going to be, hundreds of people missing. Because you can't have this kind of damage. You can't have these small islands. You can't have this without seeing a horrible rise. in the links below, I'm going to provide, hopefully, the Red Cross stuff will be right there. We can go through it. Wellington said he told his son to stop. Well, sorry, death tolls Raleigh. Meanwhile, horrific stories have emerged from Dorian's terror. Adrian Farrington, 38, told the Nassau Guardian that his 5-year-old son, Adrian Farrington Jr., was swept away from the storm surge that hit their home on Abaco Island. The father, battling a fractured leg, said he had been treading water with his son, who had been clinging on for about an hour amid the rising water. He moved his son to the rooftop of their home. He said after noticing some fins in the water that posed danger. Barrington said his son to stop crying, told his son to stop crying, close his mouth and keep breathing. But before he could get to the roof to join his son, a gust from the hurricane dragged him back in the water. Yeah, and that's the father talking. So you're going to see lots of incidents like that. Yeah, and it's just hard to read this. Go look into these stories yourself. Again, like I said, I'm going to try and link Red Cross. I don't get a ton of views, but, you know, if there's any possible way you can help, any possible way I can help, I'll make a donation myself. This is terrible. I mean, you're going to see, my assumption is there'll be hundreds, if not thousands, of people dead or missing from this, and very possible the Bahamas will not recover for quite some time. But thank you all for watching. Please reach out. Please do something you can to help these people, and check the links below. And have a great day. Hope you're not caught up in this.